Welcome to today's session with ElectroNeek. Today you will learn to build ElectroNeek bots from start. So if you haven't have any experience with ElectroNeek, today is the day you will learn everything, and there's even a free version for you so you can try it yourself. Welcome to you viewers out there. A pleasure to see you. Nice you want to support the channel and ElectroNeek. This session is also sponsored by ElectroNeek, and I have two experts with me and they can explain everything about ElectroNeek to you. Welcome, Diego, and welcome, Ivan.
Welcome, Ivan. Welcome, Anders. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you,
Diego,
Anders.
first of all, tell us what ElectroNeek is and what we can do with it.
Good, thank you. So ElectroNeek is an AI-powered automation platform that is focused on transforming business processes. And today, the idea is to have a very exciting and practical session where Ivan will take us through all the main features we have in our intelligent automation platform. We'll learn the basics, building bots by creating two workflows from scratch using the different features, as I said, available in our platform. Obviously, please stay tuned until the end because we'll show you how to get access to the community version and also free training so you can start using ElectroNeek today. Okay, so with that, Ivan, please go.
And I
Perfect.
will just mention again that if you viewers out there want to do this yourself, you can download ElectroNeek, get started. There's a community version. You can do this for free. And Ivan, is it correctly understood that everything you show us today, we can replicate ourselves afterwards, just watching this video?
Yes, everything that we'll show today can be replicated in the community edition.
Great. Nice to see you. Looking forward to what you have. And welcome, Ivan. Maybe you can introduce yourself quickly.
Right? Yeah, thank you, Anders. So my name is Ivan Ramos. I'm a sales engineer here at ElectroNeek. I've been working with RPA the last six years, I think maybe 7 at this point. But yeah, really excited to give you first a quick platform overview of everything that you have within the ElectroNeek platform that you will get access to, and then show you a couple of demos of how you can build bots from scratch using our different features.
Great. And also let us know out there if the sound is okay. Let us know that in the chat. We have a few people with us. We have Victoria from Brazil, and we also have Abdul Malek. And please let all the questions come to ElectroNeek and Ivan. I will make sure that we will answer everyone here. This session is for you. And Ivan, I can't wait to see what you have for us.
Perfect. Thank you, Anders. Okay, let's get started. So, first of all, in order to get access to the ElectroNeek platform, once you have access to the community edition, all you need to do is just log in the electroneek.com portal. So, you can do that from this button right here. And this will take you directly to the ElectroNeek account portal. This is where you will be able to see the different hubs that comprise the ElectroNeek solution, and inside those hubs, the main components of it. Today, we'll be focusing on the 5 main components of the Automation Hub, which is the part of our solution where the tools for creating intelligent automation reside. So first, let's get started with the Studio Pro. Studio Pro is our development environment. It's a low-code, drag and drop based environment where you build the workflows, the bots that you run later. This is where you can build bots that interact with user interfaces, with databases, with APIs, with many other features. And we'll take a look actually at how this looks later. What we see here inside the portal is simply a page to access the download of Studio Pro, but Studio Pro itself is a local Windows application that will be installed on the machines of the bot developers. Then the counterpart of Studio Pro is Bot Runner. Bot Runner is a small light agent. It's also a Windows application that needs to be installed on a machine, which runs the bots that have been created on Studio Pro. And in the middle of them, we have Orchestrator. Orchestrator acts as a bridge between these two solutions. The bots that have been built on Studio Pro can be deployed to Bot Runner via Orchestrator. So Bot Runner is really a free agent. It can be installed and deployed. Bots can be deployed to as many bot runners as you wish without any restrictions. And you can run the bots that you create in an attended manner, but you can also run them in what we call an unattended manner. That basically means that a human is not manually triggering those executions every time. And the way to manage how do you want those executions to happen, that will be inside the orchestrator. So once you build a bot in Studio Pro and you upload it to the orchestrator, or rather the word is you publish it to Orchestrator, you will be able to access that workflow right here in the Workflows tab of the orchestrator. You will see a list of all the workflows that you have created. And when you click on one of these, you will get a lot of options to manage how do you want this workflow to run. You also get the ability to set up email alerts for whenever that bot fails. You will be able to see the run history of that bot. Let me actually go back and show you one that already has a run history, like this one right here. You will be able to see every time that the bot has executed via the orchestrator, if it has failed, if it succeeded. You also have the option to assign in which bot runners do you want to run this bot. You can collect the logs of those executions. You can schedule those bots. You can determine when you want those bots to run. For example, daily, once a month, once a week, multiple times per day. You can also set up webhook links. So basically, those are URLs that enable you to trigger your bots remotely. And then you also have a version history feature. So as you upload your or publish your versions of your bot, you will have a history of all of those versions here, and you will be able to backup or download a backup of those versions and also select the current production version, so to speak, of that bot that will be executed. All of that, basically how, where, and when those bots run, all of that happens right here within the orchestrator. Of course, before this, you just need to set up your bot runners, connect them to the orchestrator. You will do that right here in the bot runners tab with a simple generation of a token that you simply paste into bot runner. It's a very, very simple process. And then, of course, that connection between orchestrator and bot runner also enables other options, such as the ability to use the orchestrator as an API endpoint for creating your own integrations. For example, if you want to trigger your bots to run via an API call with certain input parameters, you can do that. Also, if you want to monitor your bots in a custom way, you can leverage the API for that. And there's also a pre-built Zapier connector if you want to trigger your ElectroNeek workflows based on actions that have been triggered by connectors in the Zapier platform. So we are the only RPA platform that has a pre-built connector in Zapier, and you can use it in your SAPs as an action after any trigger that's available in the platform. So all those features are available right here with the orchestrator. And as we mentioned, that's basically what allows you to select and customize how do you want to deploy these bots that you have created. Then outside of those three core features, we have a couple more that I would like to show you. So first, we have IntelliDocs. IntelliDocs is our intelligent document processing platform. What this means is that it's a solution that goes beyond simple OCR or optical character recognition. It doesn't just take the text from an image and then return that text to you. It actually performs an intelligent recognition procedure on that document. Basically, it understands what that document is, and it also extracts everything that that document contains. So if it contains tables, it extracts the tables. If it contains signatures, it will extract that as well. Same with faces in a driver license, for example, and also every single field that is found within that document will be extracted. There is no need for prior training. There are hundreds of pre-built models within IntelliDocs, and you don't need to specify which one of those you want IntelliDocs to use to process your documents. It will automatically recognize it and use it. So within the platform, you have the ability to create what we call document streams. So those are just ways to individually consume the IntelliDocs platform. And there's also a test recognition page that you can use to run a test on on any documents that you have to see what the results will look like. But then, of course, you can consume IntelliDocs via other ways, for example, via a connector that exists in Studio Pro, and also via an API. So that is our intelligent document solution called IntelliDocs. And then finally, we have our newest feature that we'll also take a look at later because we will be having a demo running here, which is called Integra Bots. Integra Bots has been very recently launched. This is our brand new integration platform within the ElectroNeek platform. So what we have here is another way of creating and running bots, but the main difference here is that Integra Bots does not require any infrastructure to run the bots in. Those bots will run on the cloud. And of course, this means that these bots will rely mostly on pre-built connections. So what this means is that you will have a list of hundreds of pre-built connectors already in the platform, and those connectors will rely on API connections. And that will mean that your bots will be able to run without needing to have an agent like Bot Runner on a machine. The main difference, of course, between these two platforms is the ability to interact with the interface of an application. So if you need your bots to interact with a web page or with the interface of a desktop application, or perform tasks in a way that replicates how a human user perform those tasks, then Studio Pro will be more fitting for that sort of use case. However, if your cases only involve the connections between SaaS-based applications like email, like OpenAI, like Google Sheets, like Salesforce, or other types of applications, then since all the information can simply be transmitted between those applications and the cloud, you don't really need to create those bots in Studio Pro, which requires local applications. You can create that in Integra Bots and have all of that running within the same platform, but without the need of for an agent. So that's the goal of Integra Bots, adding this new ability within the platform for use cases where the whole feature set of Studio Pro is not required. So those will be the components of the Automation Hub. Now, what I want to do is go a bit more in depth into the interfaces of these two applications where you can build bots. Those would be Studio Pro and then Integra Bots. And we'll do that by first giving a quick introduction of how those look and then creating a bot inside those as well. So let's start with Studio Pro. Here we have it. So Studio Pro, as we mentioned, is it's a Windows-based application. It needs to be downloaded into the developer's machine. And this is where you create your bots. This is where you create your workflows. As we mentioned, it's a low-code, drag-and-drop based application. And it also contains a set of features that we'll actually be showcasing called Easily AI, which makes creating these workflows even easier by integrating artificial intelligence powered by OpenAI into the solution. You can already see a button right there. It says Create New with Easily AI, which we'll be using in a moment. But for now, let's jump into the interface to take a look at how that bot creation looks. Here we have three main options for starting a project. We can create it, and that will create a local folder with everything that is needed for that bot to run and then to function. Playground mode is simply an interface to create small, short demos, for example, like what we'll do now, and it will not create a project per se on the machine. And then the Create New with Easily AI button will allow us to type in a prompt to later jump into the canvas and create and customize that workflow and then run it. For now, we'll be using the Playground option. So I will just click that, and let's take a look at what we have here. So in the middle of everything, we have the canvas. This is where you build your workflows. This is, as the name implies, where you will have the freedom to create the workflow exactly as you want it to. The building blocks of these workflows are, of course, the activities. On the left here, we have the activities panel. And as you can see, based on their names, these activities are categorized depending on what specific functions they perform. So inside your workflows, you will need different features depending on your use cases. Think of it as different tools within a tool belt or a toolbox that you need, and that you will need to grab each one depending on what specific problem you need to solve. But of course, inside these categories, you will find in some cases some subcategories, and then the actual activities right there. And the names of the activities, of course, imply what those activities do. So once you get familiar with the activities, all you need to do is just drag one over into the canvas when you need to use it, and that will create a small block right there in the middle of the canvas. You may have noticed that that block was connected to my previous block, which was the start node. These connections can be remade, they can be drawn manually. The visual flow of your workflow can be customized to your liking. But then, in order to use those activities that we just added, we need to click on them and customize the properties right here on the right-hand tab. So, well, as we keep adding activities, you will notice that some of them will have one dot at the bottom, one white port, and others will have two with the text yes and no. Some activities are conditional. That means that depending on what happens inside that activity, what condition is checked, and the result of that condition, the workflow may proceed via one path or the other path. So, for example, in this case, if we had an if condition here and we checked whether something was true or false, we could go via one path in case that that is true, and a separate path in the case that that is false, right there. And of course, we can keep customizing this. We can keep adding branches to the button. We can even make some of these branches go back to the beginning to loop. So we have full freedom about how to customize these flows, not only how they look, but also in which order they run. But once again, as I was mentioning, when you click on these activities, you will notice that the properties themselves change. And those properties are the ways that you fill in that template. The activities themselves are templates, but the actions that will actually be performed will depend on what you put into the properties. So depending on that specific activity, the properties will be different. For example, if you click on an open application activity, you of course need to determine which application do you want to open. You can click here, select one from the list right here, or you can pick one from the file system. In this case, I'll just select one real quick. And if you needed to include any launch parameters, you can do that here. But as you can see, this property is not actually required. The first one is, and that's why it has that red asterisk. Also, something that's very important, every single activity within Studio Pro will have a small description on top. You can see that everyone has its own description that you can click and expand. And also this button right here that says Learn More in the Help Center. If you click that button, a link will be opened to our documentation portal called the Help Center. And you will be able to read a full article explaining how that activity works, what each one of those parameters mean, and also even some examples, some how-to guides on how to use those activities in the best way possible. So all of that documentation is available at a single click's distance. Right, so then with this, one would say, okay, the way to start creating my workflow is to start dragging activities. But really, with our new Easily AI features, there's a simpler way to do that. We can start from scratch. I can actually delete all of these activities and start from scratch without needing to drag anything, by simply providing a natural language description. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to create a workflow that will read emails from my inbox. It will check that the word invoice is found on the subject of that email. And then we want to save the result of that email. We want to have it so we can use it later. Then we will download the attachment. We expect an invoice to be attached. And then we will actually use a connector that exists right here within the document processing section to our IntelliDocs solution to extract everything that we need from it. So we can then put that information that we need into an Excel file. So first, we would need to get familiar with the activities and to drag everything. But actually, we can start from a natural language description. So by clicking this button up here, the AI button, you will have the Easily AI Workflow Assistance window popping up. And all you need to do here really is write in a description of what you need. In this case, I already have one prepared. And as you can see, what it says is basically as if you are telling one of our assistants or one of our employees or teammates what it is that we want them to create for us. So in this case, we're telling it to read an email with the word invoice into subject, save that to a variable, and then from that variable, extract the path to the first attachment. And finally, we want to process that path, that first attachment, via IntelliDocs, and then we want to save the results to a variable. And then we will add a couple more steps after that, but this will be the initial structure that we need. So with that very simple description, we can now just click Build Workflow and wait a couple seconds for that to be created for us. And there we go. We have our workflow already created for us. Of course, we will need to jump in and customize some of these steps. Of course, the read emails activities, for example, that will read emails from my inbox, does not have the details of my inbox. Only the template has been added, although the subject contains property has been filled out because I did specify that I only wanted emails with the word subject, with the word invoice in the subject. So that has been respected. But I do need to set up a couple more options. For example, I need to enter my email address as a credential. So a quick aside there about credentials in Studio Pro. Within our platform, you have the ability to have your bots work with credentials and with secure accesses to all of your different applications. And the way to do that is if you go over here to settings, you have a credential management section right here. If you click there, you will see that here are all my different credentials. And all of these are actually stored locally within the Windows Credential Vault. None of this is uploaded to the ElectroNeek servers or anywhere else. And what this means is that the bot can locally interact with my operating system to get those credentials, use them securely, and then not store them anywhere else. So in this case, I can select a pre-created credential, or I can just click the Add New Account button and add one myself. Basically, all I would need to do for that would be type in a service name. How do I want to identify this credential? And then a login and password. Then that will be saved, and I will be able to use it. In this case, I already have my email credentials right here. So I just search it and select it from the list. Next, all I need to do is select the server settings. In my case, I'm working with a Google email. But if you're using a different one, you can select it from the list. Or even if it's a custom one for a custom address or custom domain, you can even use the custom option as well. Finally, all I need to do is now tell the bot that I want to download the attachments for this email. So I can go here to attachments, check the download attachments option, and I actually have a folder in my desktop where I want to save this. So all I would do is simply copy that path and paste it over here. As you can see, there's many different types of properties. Some are text-based, some are simply options that you check or uncheck. Some have the option to click a browse button and go and select a file, and some will rely on credentials like these. Also, you'll notice that every single activity has this comment block at the bottom here that you can use to annotate that activity and make the workflow easier to read and maintain. So here you can say that what you're doing is reading all emails from inbox with the word invoice in subject. So somebody that takes a look at this workflow for the first time can very quickly know what is happening in this step without needing to go into it and understand what has been done. So this is very, very friendly for yourself in the future and also for other developers. Then we are saving that email to a variable right here. This has been done with an option that is called Save the Previous Step Result. So every time that you're working with a variable, basically a space of memory that is allocated to save a value, that you have three options to save that value. You have the set a value option. That means that you just type in a value, for example, like this, and that will be the actual value of that variable. You can use the calculate a value option, which will allow you to combine other variables or perform operations with them, such as replacing their contents, adding different numbers, or even more advanced options using JavaScript syntax. or you can use the save the previous step result option, and that will simply save the results of the previous activity in the workflow. In this case, since we're reading emails, that's what will be saved on this variable, all the emails that fulfill those conditions. And then the variables themselves will be stored right here on the variables tab. And the value will depend on the current value that's there. So if you're debugging the bot, which is an option that you have as well, these values will update in real time as they get filled in. Otherwise, they will be empty until you run the bot. Then we have one more variable with the attachment path. In this case, it understood that it needed to grab the following structure from the email variable. Actually, in this case, I will correct it very simply. This data property does not exist, but the rest is just like that. The email will have an attachment object, and then inside that, we'll use the path of that attachment. Then that will be saved to this variable. And finally, we have our IntelliDocs activity. This has been grabbed directly from the document processing section. And really all we need to do to process a document in IntelliDocs is, first, we need our API key, which comes from the document streams that we saw earlier. I already have mine set up right here as a credential, so I don't need to do anything else with that. And the path to the file. In this case, that path has been automatically filled with the variable that was created by the workflow generator. Then we have the option, the ability to specify our model. Basically, if we know this is an invoice, we can specify that. If we know it's a receipt, we can do that. But this is optional. If you don't specify it, IntelliDocs will identify that document and it will know how to process it. But this is useful in cases where your documents might not be very standard and you might want to force a specific model for that recognition. Finally, we have one more variable that will save the results of that IntelliDocs extraction. And actually, we'll add a couple more steps ourselves. So right here in the desktop, we also have a file called downloaded invoices, where we want to store the invoice number, the invoice date, and the total for the invoices that come in. So the way that we can do this is if we can drag one more activity into our workflow, very simply, called append row to Excel file. So we just drag that over to the end of our workflow. And in that activity, all we need to do is specify which file do we want to add content to. That will be the downloaded invoices file. And then we need to specify which values we want to add as a row. So in this case, I already have that set up right here. As you can see by their names, we're just grabbing from the IntelliDocs results variable. It has a fields collection, and inside that, we just want the invoice number, invoice date, and the total fields. And of those fields, we want the value. IntelliDocs actually returns much more information than just the value, including the position, a confidence percentage, and more. But this is what we want in this case, just the value of those fields. And with that, we have everything that we need. We can specify a sheet name, and we can specify other options. In this case, we will not need that. So before I can run this now, all I need is just to have an email on my inbox that fulfills this so we can test it. And I actually have one right here. As you can see, I have an email that has the word invoice in the subject, and it has an attachment that is an invoice. So the bot will work correctly with this. So now all I need to do is just run this, and we'll be able to see the result. So we can check the attachments folder. We'll see live how the attachment gets downloaded here. There it goes. And then we'll be able to see the downloaded invoices file as soon as the extraction from IntelliDocs has finished. There we go. The workflow has finished in 19 seconds. And now we can go over to the downloaded invoices file. And here we can see the invoice number, the invoice date, and the total of that invoice. And this is, of course, just the values that we needed. But if you go over to the variables in Studio Pro, you will be able to see that IntelliDocs really extracted much, much more from that document. First, it identified what happened there. What is this type of document? This is an invoice. And then it extracted many other fields, such as the company name, company address, the invoice number. We did use that. And as you can see, for each one, we have far more information. In this case, we only needed that. But if you need other information from those fields, all of that is available right here. And of course, each one of these is fully documented in our documentation. So that is a workflow from beginning to end on Studio Pro, leveraging some of our AI-powered features, such as the Easily AI workflow assistance feature and IntelliDocs for document processing. So with this, we've been able to take a quick look at the interface of Studio Pro and how you can create your first bots, both by simply dragging and dropping, as we saw at the beginning, and by using the workflow assistance to create a bot from a natural language description, and then, of course, customize it to your needs. Perfect. With that, we can now jump into the next part of it, which will be a demonstration on Integra Bots. I don't know, Anders, if you would like us to maybe take a couple of questions before that.
Definitely looks really impressive. We have a lot of comments and questions even, and maybe you can get yourself a sip of water. We have Paolo saying hi. We have Kendall from Arizona, USA. We have relaxing music from Bucharest, Romania. We have Jake and Henrik from Lake Tahoe in California. And then Tahir says, what is the difference between UiPath and ElectroNeek? And or what makes ElectroNeek special? Maybe you can answer that, Diego.
Yes, of course, I can take it. Okay, I can mention at least three things. Basically, easy of use. Okay, we both are paid platform, but our platform is easier to work with. When you start using maybe the community edition, you realize that it's more easy to create, and more how I can say it, natural to build these workflows. So you have a lot of flexibility. The other is performance. This is coming from our customers that are saying the same exact process is 3x or more faster running on ElectroNeek than, in this case, UiPath. And also, we have a very different business model that are more convenient for customers. So we have an unlimited bot model. So you don't have to pay for each bot that you create. So you can deploy bot runner in all the machines that you want. There is no extra cost. And also you can create the bots that you want. So that's, we can say, resume or summarize the main difference between both.
Great, thank you, Diego. And Taya, let us know if that was a great answer for you. Then I will say that we have a mixture of ElectroNeek users and ElectroNeek beginners today. I made a poll, and that's great because this is a beginner's guide, so you will learn everything from scratch here. And I have a few questions because, as I understood, we have the Bot Studio where we build the bots. Then we have the runner, which is sort of an agent that we set up in each machine we want to run these flows. And then we have the orchestrator. I know there's a lot of other things, but that's the core. Is that right, Even?
Yes, that's the core of it. Those are the three main aspects of it. Of course, we also have IntelliDocs and Integra Bots for other features, but for the core of the platform, you have Studio Pro for creating, Bot Runner for running, and Orchestrator for managing the connection between these two, where, when, and what you want to run.
And now you have to be really honest with me, even. How easy is this to set up? Because I always, when I have to set up these orchestrator and unattended bots in other RPA tools, it took like hours to read through documentation and all of that. How easy would that be to set up, or just stay in the community edition?
Right. No, it's very, very simple because it's all, you don't require any installation for Orchestrator. It's fully hosted on our end. As soon as you get access to it, you're good to go. You don't need to install anything, set up anything. There's no startup on the Orchestrator. Basically, as soon as you get your access, and then you can make sure in the team section that you have access to the Orchestrator and everything that you need. Then everything that we just saw is already there from the get-go. All you need to do is start creating your workflows and use this option here to publish them to the Orchestrator. Really, there is no further steps than that. You don't need to as soon as you get access to the platform, your user is ready. You don't need to create a new user. You need to give it additional permissions. Everything's there ready for you to start. And what's more important, you don't need to install anything to use the orchestrator. It's all within the same browser as we saw. All you need is the bot runner, but really it's an extremely light application that you just download from the portal right here. And connecting that orchestrator, that bot runner to the orchestrator, it's actually extremely simple. I can show you in a couple seconds. All you need to do, by default, this is how it will look. You will just need to go over to bot runners, tokens, then create a token, which you can name in any way that you want. I can name this with my own name, generate, copy, and then paste it here. Then I just connect to orchestrator. You do need to, you do need to perform a manual approval of that. You just make sure that the bot runner that you added is secure, safe, and that you are in control of that. But that's all. That's all that's needed. And now you can use that bot runner in any of your bots that you have deployed. That's really the only setup that's needed.
Great. That sounds very easy. We have the last question before we continue with the demo. And thanks for all the questions in the chat. Tahir says thanks for the great explanation. If you have more questions to ElectroNeek, just post them in the chat. We will take them in the next Q&A session here later today. I have one question before we continue. The Easily AI, where we could just use our everyday words to create the automation, that sounds that looked extremely smart. How precise do I need to be with the prompts? I mean, do I need to often have to repeat myself to get it right, or is it quite broad in terms of listening to my words?
No, it's mostly, it's always good to make sure that your prompt is clear, basically, that you're explaining everything that you need to do in clear terms, and that you're similarly to, let me actually paste the prompt that we used before so we can take a look at it. Similar to this, as you can see, it's just a very straightforward, do this, then do that, and then do that. But you do need to specify how you want it to do that in a way, because you need to make sure that it does not skip steps, or it does not believe that it needs, it needs other options that than the ones that you need. So it's a matter of being clear, just as if you were telling somebody to do it. But then after that, all of the activities that are supported by Easily AI at the moment, Easily AI knows them, and then when you say, for example, read an email, it knows that the read emails activity is there, and knows how to fill it in, and it will use it. There are a couple activities that are not yet supported by this Easily AI feature. It's still in a beta version. For example, the ability to work natively with UIs and with the interface of a web page or an application. But you can still create the structure of your workflow by, for example, defining the logic that you want to follow, the conditions that you want to check, the types of values that you want to read, the specific checks that you want to do on certain data. But if you state that clearly in a manner similar to this, you will find that you won't need much iteration with that prompt. It usually takes a couple attempts to create the best workflow that creates what you need. But really, this saves a lot of time, and you notice that even if it doesn't create exactly what you wanted, you'll have 90% of it, and customizing that 90% ready workflow will take far less time than creating it from scratch.
Great, thank you, Ivan, and let's continue with the demo, and we will give you more questions after that.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll jump now into our Integra Bots demo. So we'll take a look at the other way of creating bots within the ElectroNeek platform, and that would be the Integra Bots way. So first, a bit of a deeper overview into Integra Bots. We already explained that this is our integration platform, where you can create bots that work natively via cloud-based and SaaS connections, rather than via user interface and replicating user actions. There's three main components here that you can see as tabs in the Integra Bots interface. By the way, as you can see, everything here with Integra Bots will be running natively on the browser. We won't need to install anything. But these three main components are the flows, or the actual Integra Bots that we will be creating in a moment. The runs, this basically means the different executions of your bots that have occurred in the past, and you can even take a look at these in real time as your bots are running. And then the connections. The connections, actually, let me take a quick refresh of this. The connections are the different integrations that have already been created with the different applications that you'll be using. So for example, for this demo, we'll be using Gmail, Google Sheets, and OpenAI, and we have already created those integrations. I will show you how you can create your own, but in this case, we'll rely on the ones that we already have. Once you have created them, you don't need to re-add them every time. That connection is already there, and you just reuse them for a different bot every time that you need. So let me jump back into flows here, and let's get started creating a bot here with Integra Bot. So let me click on the Add Integra Bot button. As you start, you will be recommended some templates that do specific tasks that you might be interested in. In this case, we'll just click the Start from Scratch button, and that will take us to the Integra Bots version of the canvas. This is where we'll be creating our Integra Bot. What we can do now is first we can rename this. So we can go over here to the rename option. And what this case will be, it will be a bot that will log payment notifications. So we will have an email account that will receive emails from people letting us know that they have already paid their bills for an unspecified service. And what we want to do is every time that we receive one of those emails, we want to log that information into a Google Sheets spreadsheet so that we have full control of every payment that has been made without needing somebody who takes a look at that email, or even without needing a bot running on a machine occupying valuable infrastructure. So we'll call this payment notification logging. There we go. Okay, so now that we have our name, we can start creating our Integra Bot. The first step is always to set up our trigger. Basically, how do you want this Integra Bot to start? And we have many different options. If we click on this button right here, you will see that we have triggers related to applications. So those would be the app events. Basically, actions or events that happen on these applications that we have right here that are already connected or that are already available for connection within Integra Bots. You can have those trigger your Integra Bots. You can also set up other more customized triggers, such as a schedule. Basically, you want this bot to run every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a couple hours. Or you can set up a webhook so your bot runs when you enter a certain URL. In this case, we'll be using the Gmail trigger, since I will be receiving emails on my Google account. And the trigger itself inside that connector will be the new email. So once you select that, you will need to enter the different properties of that connection, similar to what we just saw in Studio Pro. So in connection itself, that's where we will be able to either select a connection that we already created, like before, or we'll be able to click the new connection button and set up our own. So that's the way that you will do it. The way to set up that connection will change depending on the application. For Gmail and other Google-based applications, you simply log into your Google account and everything is handled that way. But for others, you might need to type in an API key, a secret or a client secret or a client ID or other authentication information, depending on what the application requires for that connection to happen. In this case, for us, for Gmail, that was a single sign-on, so it was very simple to perform. Great, so I'll be using a connection to an account that we already have set up. I have that set up running right here on a separate Chrome account. So we have both an email account and a Google Sheets spreadsheet that I will explain in a moment. That's what we'll be using right here for this bot. So for these emails, we want to actually specify that we only want to work with emails that have the word payment on the subject. So if other emails arrive, we don't need to process them. We don't want to waste a run on those that have nothing of interest for us. And we only want to work with emails that are unread. So in the label section, we can go over and select the unread label. Right. So before we move on, we actually need to test this. We need to run a small test of this trigger. So we have some sample data within Integra Bots that we can use for creating the rest of our logic. So for that, I will send in a small email to this account. Let me quickly set that up and show you. And that email will be used in this case for testing this connection. So I just sent that email. Let me put it on the screen so everyone can see it. So this is the email that I have sent. It has the word payments, and I have included the 3 key data that, pieces of data that I need for this information login. I need the date of the payment, the amount, and the client number. So we have that right here in this spreadsheet that's already set up. You may notice that in the first row of this, we actually have this right here. This is a sample to show you how we'll be loading the data from Integra Bots into the spreadsheet. We'll be receiving all of the values as a single text with the pipe symbol, splitting them up. And then inside the sheet, we already have a formula right here. That's a split formula that will take that value just like this and split it into the 3 columns that we need. So that's what will happen here. We'll have new values only in this row in this column, and then everything else will be automatically populated. So we see that the email has been received. So we can now go into the trigger and click the load data button. This will load the information about that email that we sent. And you don't need to worry about everything that's here. The main aspect here is making sure that the load has been successful and the data is all there. That means that in further steps inside this Integra Bot, we'll be able to use the information that was inside this email. Perfect. So now our next step, we need to read this email, which will be in natural language, and we need to structure it. We need to extract only what we need and structure it in a way that's similar to what we just saw. We want a date, pipe, client number, pipe, and then the paid amount. That's what we need as a result. But the best way to do that would be either to have a human reading that email and extracting only what we need, since it will be natural language, or we can leverage OpenAI. So that's what we'll do. We'll add our first action to this Integra Bot. We have this small plus sign button right here. And if we click it, we will be able to add an action, either an app action right here or a core action. So just like with the triggers, app actions refer to actions that we can perform or tasks that we can perform with the pre-existing connectors in the Integra Bots platform. And core involves more customized steps that we can take, including the ability to set up more advanced or complex logic, such as the branch option, which allows you to check a condition and have different branches depending on the result of that. And you can even perform a loop. You can have a loop of a collection of different elements and perform actions for each one of those elements. We won't be using those in this example, but this is a very interesting differentiator with other integration platforms. Sometimes they only have very simple linear logic. In this case, we have the ability to add in more complex steps, even the ability to run code inside your bots. But for now, we'll only search for the OpenAI connector right here. And inside that, the action will be ask ChatGPT. So we'll be asking ChatGPT to get the email, extract what we need, and return it to us in the format that we need it. And that will be how we'll get the data. Okay, so we need to set up the connection. It's already been set up for us. Of course, if you want, you can set up a new one, but in that case, we already have our own. So we select it here. All we needed for this one was an API key generated in the OpenAI platform. Then we need to select our model. These are the models that we have available. For now, we'll just select GPT-4. And the question will be the prompt itself. So for the prompt, this will be what we'll describe. We'll say that we'll receive the following payment notification. And here is where we'll bring in the body of the email that we received. And in order to do that, you may have noticed that a small pop-up window appeared on the left that says data to insert. And then we can click on the previous actions or the trigger of our bots, and we'll be able to access the input and output information that those actions had in their context. So if we click here, we'll be able to get the information from the email message that we loaded as a sample. But of course, when running in real time, it won't use the sample. It will use the actual email that has triggered the bot. In this case, let's actually grab the snippet. The snippet is basically a small, non-formatted version of the body of the email. So if we click Insert, you can see that it has been inserted into our field. And now we can add some more text, actually. So we'll add a bit more of an instruction right here. We'll tell it to return the date, client number, and paid amount in the following format. This is how we want it to return the values to us. And then finally, we specify that we only want the result returned. We don't want any additional text, and we want dates and amounts formatted in a specific way. Then all we need to do is set up the temperature. The temperature is how random or how creative do you want the AI to be. In their case, we always work with a 17% because this is always good to have it be not 100% deterministic, because AIs will never be that, but still very solid and or very reliable in terms of how accurate those responses are, and also not be very too creative or too out of what we need. Okay, so with this, we'll have the result, and we can actually test this to make sure that it works. So this will use the data from the sample email that we saw. And here we have our sample result: dates, client number, and amount, just as we asked. Now, all we need to do to finalize this is add that data into this spreadsheet right here by adding it to the input column. So for that, just as we did with OpenAI, we'll search for the Google Sheets connector. It's right here. The action will be to insert a new row. But of course, as you can see, we have many other actions. The connection is already created. It's this one right here. Once you select the connection, you will get a list of all your spreadsheets loaded. In that case, mine is called payment notifications, as you can see. And we're going to work with the payments sheet inside that. So that's the one. Then we are specifying that the first row are headers. So that way we can specify which header that we want to put the data into, and we'll be using the input one. So for that, we'll leave these other empty, but for the input one, we'll grab the result from the Ask ChatGPT action right here. We hover over the results and click Insert. There we go. So with this, we're transferring the results of the second step to the third step as input data. And that will add a row right here with that information. All right, so with this, we can actually now test this to see if this has worked correctly. We see that right here. And if we go to a sheet, we can see that the values have been added to the input column, but because of our formula, they have also been split into the other columns. That means everything worked correctly. And now that we have our Integra Bot fully tested, every single step has been tested, we are now ready to publish this bot. So we can start running by itself and checking incoming emails to perform the tasks that we asked it to. So we click Publish right here. And now if we go back to the flows screen, so let me actually go back here to Integra Bots and reload very quick. We'll be able to see that it now has an indicator that it is published and it is running. So here we have our bot, and it says that the flow is on, and it also has a small icon next to it, letting us know how often is this running. This pooling frequency will depend on the trigger. In this case, for Gmail, it will be 2 minutes. In other cases, it will be immediate. In other cases, it might be shorter or longer. So this means that if I send a new email now to this account with the information that I need, the bot will run with that information. at most 2 minutes later. So let's actually try that and send a quick email to that account. So let me send that very quick. There we go. Let me show you how that email looks that I just sent. So I sent another email that says payment notice. And here I informed that I paid the full fee of $199.99 for client 57213 on the date of December 17th. So we have everything that we need. We just need to wait for this workflow to be triggered. And as soon as that has been triggered, and that of course depends on the pooling time, in this case it will be 2 minutes, then we'll be able to see that the run will be running in real time right here, and we'll be able to click on it and take a look at it. So in this case, we have a past execution of a workflow, and we can see that it tells us if it succeeded or not on every step, and we can even click on them and check the specifics of how that worked. How did that initial email look? What result did ChatGPT give us? Where and which specific cells was that added? So we have full control and traceability over every Integra Bot that has executed in the past, and also the ones that are running currently. So all we need to do now for this is to wait for that pulling of data. If we check the invoice, the email has already been received, and then it's only a matter of Integra Bots checking on that inbox and grabbing that email and putting the data exactly where we asked it to. So that will be a demonstration of the other way of running bots that we have within the ElectroNeek platform. As you saw here, we don't need to work with UIs. We don't need to drag activities. We don't need to have a local agent or a local application to run the bots. Everything happened right here in the browser, and both creating the bots, checking their executions, and managing their connections all happens right here within the same ElectroNeek platform.
Great, Ivan. That looks extremely cool. We have a few questions if you're ready.
Yes.
So Ivan, that's from me. I don't understand why I should use Zapier. You showed that we can integrate Zapier in the beginning, but from what I can see here that the Integra Bots can do, then I don't need Zapier. So can you elaborate on that?
Right. No, that's
and maybe you can tell me what Zapier, and you can tell the viewers what Zapier is, and maybe elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, Zapier is another integration platform that relies on API-based connectors and cloud connectors, like what we saw just now with Integra Bots. But yeah, really, the Zapier connector was a way for us to cover maybe something that we didn't have available in the platform too long until a short time ago, where you have the ability of having most of your workflow run on the cloud and then trigger a local bot with that. But really now, you can have your bots running directly on the ElectroNeek platform. And this is not an additional solution that is isolated from the platform. It's integrated. It's in there. It's as integral to the platform as Studio Pro is. And really, with the current state and what the features that we're adding in the very near future, you'll be able to do, what we used to only be able to do with Zapier. You can now do it, much simpler and in a far more integrated manner with the connection available in Integra Bots. So as for differences between them, I believe the main ones is of course, the fact that it's inside the platform is key, and also the fact that you can perform more complex logic within Integra Bots. I believe Zapier locks that behind some premium plans and other options, and they have like premium connectors and free connectors. All of our connectors, all of our actions are available for everyone from the get-go. You don't need to pay for a different tier or have anything special. It's all within the platform and available from day one. It's all there, just as I showed you just now. It's all available from the moment you start using it.
Great, thank you, Ivan. I might direct some of my marketing friends towards ElectroNeek then, because they complained about Zapier. They raised their prices 6 times, so it might be the time to switch. And we also have a question from Tahir that is a bit unrelated to Integra Bots, but he says that is ElectroNeek have the ability to make automations that works in Android systems?
Sorry, Diego, you want to take it?
No, I want to answer. No, we do not support Android
Great.
now.
That was
So
that was the short answer.
yeah,
Thank you, Diego.
short question, short answer. Yeah.
Okay, can we deal with Citrix in ElectroNeek?
Yes,
Yes,
yes, we
yes,
actually
yes, we
have
can.
some activities specifically tailored for Citrix and RDP connections. So everything that happens within those can be handled with these activities.
And maybe you can explain, even just in 10 seconds, what Citrix is and why we should, why some people worry about that. And you showed us that it's possible in ElectroNeek.
Right. Yeah. So Citrix is a virtualization platform, and it's a very popular way of running your bots in infrastructure, or running your applications or your systems in infrastructure that you don't yourself host, that you virtualize it on somebody else's server. And the key difference between an application that's local and one that's in Citrix, for our purposes, is that you don't get access directly to the interface of the elements, but rather to the images. So that's why you work via surface automation. But really, other than that, it's just a matter of replicating the actions that a human takes with that application. Really, it's far more convenient than having your own maybe VM or infrastructure running, but functionally, it will look the same as having that application locally.
Great, thanks for answering. So we're about to come to an end here, and Taya also says thank you. It's been an absolutely pleasure, even great work with the demo, and thanks for the answers and introduction to you as well, Diego. We're back tomorrow with more ElectroNeek. And to you viewers out there, thanks a lot for attending. And if you like this show, please give it a thumbs up. That will make this channel and ElectroNeek go out to more viewers. So,
Good. Anders, could you please allow me to just mention that you can download community version from the ElectroNeek webpage /pricing. You have the option for community for free, and also the online plans that we have in there. So basically, you need to click to start the community. You have to fill up the form, and you will start working with our platform, basically.
Great. So free, you can get started with the free community version that will work. That's fully functional. So definitely go check that out. There's also a link in the description to that. With that said, see you tomorrow. It's been an absolute pleasure, everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.